always one of our favorite days of the year in person. It's always kind of a party to just be together, and though we're not physically in person, it's really helpful. Thank you for all having your Zoom videos on. I consider this time in the year sort of the entering the third trimester for birthing new projects, particularly, and continuing ones in another way, because of all of the thought and care and work that you have put into conceiving of these projects and then bringing them into being. First the concept paper phase, and then the full application, and now we're moving down the path into the recruitment phase. And today, this is the transition, and this inaugurates when you can really begin moving forward apace with hiring your new VISTA members. I particularly want to give a special welcome to our new supervisors. So welcome to all of you. Why don't you, if you are a brand new supervisor, so that the others can see, go ahead and clap for yourselves or put a thumbs up so that people can see who's new. Great. And then I also want to take time to recognize our incredible CCMA team. And as with all things, it is a team effort to get anywhere. There's nothing is solo here. So we have quite a number of new team members. Of course, Catalina Juarez, our program manager. So as I mentioned you, if you can wave or indicate in some way. Karen Abma, of course, who I think most of you would know by now. Jake Herner is our VISTA leader. And Tavon Johnson just joined us on Tuesday as a brand new VISTA leader on our team. We're quite excited about that. Then it's also my pleasure to introduce to you Zandra Cuff. Zandra is a third VISTA leader that just joined us on Tuesday. But she will have a special project and be working less directly with the members and the supervisors, but is working with us on a very special initiative that our no longer state office, our regional program manager is, portfolio manager is supporting, and that is to work with CCMA on our own internal equity audit and support the ongoing work of our equity task force, and therefore support the VISTA project and the VISTA members as part of that, because we all know that the VISTA project is not happening in a bubble. It's happening within the culture of our organization. It's happening within the culture of our network. It's happening within the culture of your institutions as higher ed institutions, where they intersect with the culture of community partners and community organizations, and within the culture of our region, country, and world. And that has for millennia been, riddled with injustice at all levels with many intersectionalities in that. So we really are excited about the opportunity to do a deeper dive. And I will get a little bit more into how we got here and where we're going with that. But I just wanted to say that Zandra is specifically going to be working with us in that. We also have on the call our collective impact team, which is Jim Walters, Taylor Gates, and Sarah Lal, who are a fantastic team. And you'll hear a little bit more from Jim this morning. And then the second half of our VISTA supervisor workshop will be on Monday. We didn't want to kill you by Zoom. No homicide here, hopefully, all in one day. So the second half of it will be on Monday, I believe. And then we may have other team members on the call, Laura Hagman, Pat Bassett, and Kiana Pena Acosta, who works with us also on food security and some other special projects. So special thanks to you all. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce you to our new portfolio manager for the Mid-Atlantic region, Mr. Matt Forrest. Matt, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, yes, there's Matt. Okay, so Matt, yes, Matt will tell you, but there has been a substantial restructuring of Vista across the country and how it's administered. And instead of having a state director, Matt is our portfolio manager for the entire Mid-Atlantic region, or shares part of that portfolio and works out of the Philadelphia office. So, and I have to personally say that the word administration has buried within it ministry, which actually comes from 14th century to serve. And he brings that spirit of service. He makes a lot easy for us, frankly, by moving things forward quickly and literally supporting our project. So Matt, do you want to just give a welcome and bring people up to speed with some of CNCS's movements and changes?
Yeah, sure. Thanks again, Madeline, Catalina, for having me today. I'm excited for the opportunity to learn alongside all of you as well. I'm pretty new to AmeriCorps, so I joined the agency back in August. And in August, we were still the Corporation for National and Community Service. And since then, the agency has rebranded externally as AmeriCorps with the hopes of making national service a little more tangible with a common brand that unites across all of our programs. So in addition to AmeriCorps Vista, our AmeriCorps State and National programs and our AmeriCorps Senior programs. So I come to AmeriCorps with a background in national service. I'm an AmeriCorps alum myself. I served for 2 terms in Chicago. So national service has a special place in my heart, and then spent 5 years in Philadelphia leading AmeriCorps members. So I have a background in AmeriCorps member supervision as well, working in public schools, implementing some programming for City Year. And then came to AmeriCorps this August when we opened our regional office in Philadelphia. So like Madeline mentioned, over the past 2 years, the agency has been shifting from a state-by-state model to a regional model. And the Mid-Atlantic region was one of the last offices to open out of the 8 regions in the country. So we're a team of, I think at full capacity will be a team of about 20 serving AmeriCorps programs in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, Washington, D.C., West Virginia, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And so in this model, our portfolios are kind of more geographically expansive. So I support AmeriCorps Vista programs, AmeriCorps State and National programs, and AmeriCorps Senior programs in Maryland and Delaware with a team of 3 other folks. And I'm just excited to be here and learn alongside of you. I, primarily interact with Madeline, Catalina, and Karen. So I hear about your projects and I hear about the work being done, but it's nice to, kind of make those connections and put some names to faces, since most of my work is pretty removed from what you are doing on the ground, especially since CCMA does such a great job of setting you all up for success. So I'm excited for the year ahead and happy to be here today. And feel free to chat me with questions or call me out at any time, Madeline and Catalina, if you want me to speak on something more throughout this morning or afternoon.
Thank you, Matt. Great. So before going further, I would just like to start with recognizing the context that this entire day and conversation and all of our work is happening within. Sometimes we launch right into the work, but actually all of our work is within and influenced by that context. And since this group last gathered, and of course some people are with us for the first time, there has been a lot of water under the bridge. There's a lot of water under the bridge every single day. If we were in even a quote unquote normal year, not a pandemic year, this would be in person. And frankly, we would have a nightmare because of the weather and we would have had to cancel and change. So ironically, because we're meeting by Zoom, you know, the work goes on in spite of the winter weather around us. But, you know, frankly, some among us have struggled this year, experienced COVID themselves, lost loved ones. Many are struggling with mental and physical lack of wellness. Our democracy saw a frontal assault and insurrection. The entire several months of the post-election climate was new in how, I'll just leave that there. But the racial justice in our country, the awareness, oh, Anthony, how nice. That's really great. Welcome. So great. We've got a Superman in our midst. The need for ongoing conversations and support, and making that support explicit, making the end outcomes of our work more explicit, where justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion is really brought front and center as the end outcomes, along with civic and community engagement of our work. Like, these are not two different things. These are very blended. And then, of course, the economic impact, not only on people's individual lives, but on higher ed. I mean, this is a lot. There's a lot of transition going on, and I just appreciate you being here and doing this work, and not stopping the work that needs to be done, but actually being motivated to deepen your work and put your passion into your work. I personally believe that this work that we are doing is a call for all of us. I would love to spend multiple days hearing about your own stories of self, who you are, how you got to be here, why you care. I think that building relationships between and among each other would literally be renewing of ourselves in this work. And we won't have as much time for that as we would like in this context. But I strongly encourage you to reach out, and we may even set up a way for new supervisors to connect with more experienced supervisors. I believe in picking up the phone and calling each other and talking. I think that we learn more from other humans and through relationship than any other way. I mean, you can have all the documents on the planet, but we know that there can often be, even if you have good policies, a gap between the lived experience of people and those policies. So let's just support each other as supervisors so that we can support our VISTA members and our projects. With all of this context, CCMA is really trying to put legs on our tagline. Our tagline has been our tagline, developing global citizens, building just communities, since our inception. The National Campus Compact tagline is developing citizens and building communities. But developing global citizens and building just communities is a little bit more explicit. But how would we know and how would we show if we are, in fact, doing that and getting there? And that language, how would we know, how do we know, and how would we show, is actually really coming out of my experience, my learning, and our current work with Middle States, the Middle States Commission for Higher Education, which is obviously the accrediting body for every single one of our institutions, not our nonprofit organizations in the room, but our higher education institutions. And we're also, there's a lot of weaving going on. There's a lot of connecting the dots, but just as we're connecting the dots more explicitly with our JEDI work, our justice, equity, inclusion, and diversity outcomes, we're also connecting our work more and using the language to show how this work connects with the the self-studies that institutions go through as they're moving toward the renewal of their accreditation. So if we can help you gain, and some of you in the room are experts in that, but we're also sometimes finding that our community engagement people are not and leaders are not necessarily the ones who are deeply engaged in that, the leadership of the self-study and the accreditation. So there's an opportunity to highlight our work and therefore have it bought into at the entire institution level and institutionalize our work, and therefore work more at the cultural change level that we're just trying to continuously learn and support. And part of this is coming out of our equity task force. I think many of you know that last summer we put forward to the board a proposal to, learning along with every other organization, and in part inspired and nudged by our VISTA cohort. We took that as an opportunity to put forward a proposal with our board to create an equity task force. So that has been going on all fall for 6 months now. And special thanks to a couple of our VISTA members who have been serving on that. But we have public, private, 2-year, 4-year, Maryland, DC, Delaware, and then we always try to have some urban and rural and some different positional types of diversity. So CAO and Vice President of Student Affairs, and then, various levels, always to guide our thinking. But that task force, which has been co-chaired by Dr. Tracy Roan at Morgan State University and led behind the scenes by our wonderful partner in our JEDI work, Dr. Carmen Marshall with the Maryland Nonprofits, formerly called Maryland Association for Nonprofit Organizations. They have been guiding the conversation, and those 10 recommendations have now been formalized. They will be approved by the board, or reviewed and approved by the board in March, and then will be made public. But they are guiding our work moving forward. And the first, of course, stands to reason, is to walk the walk. So that is birthing our equity audit. And that's, we knew that would be one of the recommendations and one of the outcomes. We couldn't run it all at the same time, but that's part of inaugurating Xandra's role with us to assist with that effort. And then the second recommendation is to use the language of JEDI. So welcome and kind of get accustomed to that: justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we're making explicit the justice piece, because DEI is, of course, the term that's often used in our higher ed institutions. But we think that that justice piece is really important. And then there are multiple other recommendations just around providing resources for our members, really raising this up throughout the entire network to shift the culture of higher ed. Like, what can Campus Compact Mid-Atlantic do to assist with that throughout the entire region? But the last of the recommendations is simply to continue the task force. We did not ask for people's firstborn when, the initial ask went out for a shorter time commitment, but the group is really deeply invested in the work and will continue to meet and continue to guide us. In our equity audit, our current thought is to, in addition to be looking at justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, to also simultaneously add in that sustainability piece, which, just the green efforts, that makes sense, and global citizenship. So we welcome the expertise that some of you bring, and we will be looking certainly at all aspects of the VISTA grant and how we can strengthen and improve the work we're doing, but also other aspects of who we are as CCMA, and then beyond that, how we can be working better together. And that ties in with our collective impact work. So with that, I'd like to turn it to Jim for a few minutes before I wrap up with some thoughts about strategic planning, just to bring you kind of up to speed with where we are. Jim Walters has been with us in a few different roles for the past few years. He certainly started out as a VISTA supervisor about a dozen years ago, when he was working with Montgomery College, and the very first project that he was leading was one in partnership with Montgomery County Public Schools, and he can maybe share some more about that on Monday. But then he actually joined our team as a VISTA member, stunningly, and is now the program director for our P20 Connects Collective Impact Initiative. So Jim, if you could give a few highlights just to spark people's attention for what will be coming on Monday.
Sure. And good morning, everybody, and welcome. It's nice to see you all here today, and thank you for your time. I'm going to keep this really brief because we'll have time to begin our conversations on Monday. But just to kind of frame this, this collective impact work is growing out of an initiative called P20 Connects, and that was generally where college students worked with pre-K through 12 students in some kind of community engagement or addressing some community need to develop the skills, understandings, and attitudes that are necessary for college, career, and civic readiness. To go back to Madeline's know and show and how do we highlight our work, we developed with about 10 VISTA programs over the course of the past 3 years, a similar assessment so that we get at how folks are learning and growing. And although these different programs have different goals and activities, they're basically mutually reinforcing activities because we're all working towards the same kind of outcomes. So Madeline asked, since you're getting those kinds of outcomes, how might we begin a discussion where VISTA programs just in the Mid-Atlantic region might be able to participate? So we've looked at this thing called collective impact, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. That is non-invasive. It doesn't change your program. It is simply kind of a mindset, a way in which we might support each other's work collectively, and to be able to say, with some certainty, here's the impact that we are having, not only on our participants, but on our communities and our region. So that's our conversation from Monday. We'll be sending you a couple of videos over the weekend, just to kind of help frame where we're going on Monday. But that's my short story. So thank you, Madeline.
Thanks, Jim. And Taylor and Sarah. Taylor is particularly focused on assessment, and Sarah on fund development for this and some grant writing. So now I just have a few minutes left. This CCMA is in its final year of its current strategic plan. Normally we would spend the entirety of that year in a deeper dive, but because we wanted to have the equity task force running in the fall, we didn't want two trains running at the same time. So the equity task force has now completed its recommendations for the time being, and they will fold into the strategic plan. And we're doing we have already reviewed where we are right now. We've reviewed and currently expect there to be 5 pillars, the first of which will be JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And the names may change, some as we get stakeholder input through the spring. The second will be collective impact, and that is our networks collective, the decision of our President's Council over multiple years and our SAGE members to focus on advancing equity through college, career, and civic readiness. So those goals have not changed, even though we're thinking of our work more broadly and talking about collective impact more broadly, but the focus remains on advancing equity through college, career, and civic readiness. And that, of course, Jim and team will be leading, but we also want opportunities for more extensive stakeholder input throughout the spring in our focus groups. The third pillar will be institutionalization, and that's where we're thinking of our middle states work. The ISETs institutes that we've had over multiple years, the incorporating community engaged teaching and scholarship in promotion and tenure, our faculty development work, professional development. The fourth pillar we currently expect to be around global citizenship. So if that language resonates with you, and if you bring knowledge, skills, attitudes, and understandings that might help us build that out, we would really appreciate it. These focus groups will be made public. Probably we'll send them the opportunity to you in an email and of course in our e-newsletter. And then finally, sustainability, which in this instance also means fund development. Like how on earth will we, again, in this economic climate, continue this work, this vitally important work. So thank you all.